I am such a big fan of the move of knight to c3 against the Scandinavian defense. Playing this move here, attacking the pawn. If takes, knight takes e4 is very sound. That's what Hikaru Nakamura goes with. If the move of d4, we can actually swing our knight over to the g3 spot. Such a big fan of this move, knight c3. I made an over 4-hour course on it. And it actually turns out that Hikaru Nakamura is a big fan of it as well, playing from the white side. I mean, this move of knight to c3 is something that he goes with the most often. He has played this move, knight to c3, against the Scandi 319 times. The second most popular move that he goes with in online chess, taking the pawn at only 114. We got 114 and 319. Hikaru loves this move of knight to c3. And yeah, in this case, we have pawn to d4. Knight ce2, knight g3. This is what I recommend. Get that knight over to g3 as fast as you can. Put the bishop on c4 if able. Black there really, I mean, up to that point, Black was playing well. Black should play this move of bishop to e6. That is by far, in my opinion, Black's best choice, preventing our bishop from coming in there easily. But here we have knight f6. I mean, by the way, Black hardly ever plays bishop e6 there. It feels much more natural to push a pawn or develop a knight first, right? You always hear knights before bishops. Well, it doesn't apply here. Bishop c4 is played in the game. Knight c6. Keep in mind, guys, Hikaru's going up against a very strong opponent, nearly 3,000. Of course, Hikaru's rating here is, you know, in the 3,200s. But in the game, we have d3. Now, this is a move that Hikaru goes with a lot, and I actually do think it's an inaccuracy because of knight a5 being able to be played. Black doesn't go with it here, but I do think it's the best move. I mean, if bishop e3, we lose our very valuable light-squared bishop. That is such a great attacking piece in this game, putting pressure on the king side of the board. And if we check the bishop trying to hang on to it, well, we're just not going to be able to. Black can take now, Black can take later, but that bishop is not going to be able to survive. So I don't like that move d3, right? Instead of that, I would personally play this move of knight to f3. This is the move that Stockfish goes with, the only move that gives white an advantage according to the engine. But yeah, I mean, that's just a really solid way to play this. And so we have d3, Black misses knight a5, we have bishop c5. Now we have a3. Now a3 and a4, very interesting to compare the two. I like going with a4. The good things, you know, about a4 is that, you know, first off, b5, it's just going to be hard for Black to make, you know, queen side expansion with a6 and b5, right? You're putting pressure on that spot. I'd say a bad thing about a4 is that, I mean, you know, b4 is weakened. That's a square that Black can easily throw a bishop into, a knight into at some point. So there's pros and cons. But, you know, a pro for both is that you do get the a2 square for your bishop. Up to you if you like a3 or a4 there for white. But okay, we have a6, knight f3, castling kingside h3. Good move here. Good move. And honestly, we're not playing h3 because we're worried about bishop g4. In fact, if Black does that and takes on f3, we have great access to the f5 square, a knight easily being able to jump into that spot. And if g6 preventing that, well, you just weaken your dark squares quite a bit. We're mainly playing this move to potentially support g4. And on top of that, right, it actually makes this, you know, knight h4 idea a lot easier. Okay, let me explain. So in this position, let's say we see a move like, you know, pawn to b5. That's what we see in the game here, bishop a2. And we're going to go from there. We're going to start looking towards a knight h4 idea. But let's say Black goes with bishop d7. We can actually play knight h4 right away. And it might seem like, and I've had this idea played against me, Black going, you know what, I'm going to sack a piece for a pawn, but then I'm going to take the piece on h4. Black's up a pawn, that's true. But because h3 was played, bishop g5, the queen's done. The queen's done. Can't go there. Pawn takes. Black can resign. So h3 in the game here, we have b5, bishop a2, a5, bishop g5, pinning that knight. Nice idea there. Queen d6, knight h4. Such a key idea there, looking to get that g1 knight to h4. Really what you're doing in this opening, right? b1 to g3, g1 to h4, and you're using these knights to support that h knight into the f5 spot. Again, if you play g6, you are weakening your dark squares as Black, so you just can't have everything. You got to let a knight in there in a position like this, or you got to weaken your dark squares, right? It can be very hard to decide between the two in a lot of cases in terms of what to do. I do think that in this position, knight e7 is a good way to kind of mirror things. Look at f5, look at g6. That's a good move that Black can go with. That's the best move. But instead we have this move of queen d8, allowing that knight to jump in. And that's what, you know, the engine likes, just throwing that knight in there. But instead we have the move of queen f3 from Hikaru. Playable move, good move, putting more pressure on this pinned knight, bishop e6, and now we have this knight getting thrown into the f5 square. And guys, I'm telling you, if you try this out against the Scandinavian defense, and really what this is a Nimzowitsch defense, Kennedy variation, but for the white side. If you try this as white and as Black against e4, you're going to get great results if you really put the time and if you really put the effort in learning these attacking ideas. Guys, the Scandinavian defense has a really hard time against the move knight c3, and on top of that, it's rare, so you can win a lot of games with this. The knight gets thrown in there. In the game, we have bishop takes f5. Let's just see some things that can happen, and these are general principles, general ideas, general, motives, tactics, whatever you want to call it. Let's say black takes on a2. I mean, we could take back and we're winning. But we could also just take on g7, blast this position open. We got 2 attacking pieces on that knight. If the king takes, bishop takes f6 with check. If you move the king, I mean, we could win the queen or even mate. I mean, king g8, mate, game over. King g6. We have queen f5 and queen g5 or queen h5, game over. If king, game over, right? If the queen takes, well, thanks for the queen. And we're also going to mate you anyways. Queen takes f6. This move is inevitable with queen g7. So, yeah, completely crushing game there. What about h6? What if black does that? Well, we can take on h6. Guess what? This pawn is overworked. If you don't take the knight, we're up a pawn and we're attacking. If you do take, we capture on f6, and we're up a pawn and we're attacking. Going back, if a move like g6, we can throw in a check. We can play knight g4. There's a lot of different things there that are winning. I kind of like knight g4, swinging that knight back. We got 1, 2, 3 pieces all clamping down on that knight. If you try to save it, bishop h6, we take on f8, and we are up the exchange. And yet again, we're still attacking. And if a move like bishop e7, this is the best thing that black can do, we can take. Look, you can't take with the knight without realizing that bishop takes f6 and queen takes f6 isn't in play. But it turns out that queen takes is even worse. You're still going to lose this knight, potentially, and, a lot of material. Knight h5. If you let this knight sit there, we're going to take. This king is going to be donezo. And because of that, the engine move here is taking the knight, just giving up the queen. Stockfish going, take my queen. At least I don't get checkmated right now. But it's still losing. It's still losing. I mean, we just continue now with, a move like queen takes h5. We're +6 in material. +6. I mean, come on. What the heck? I think we're up a piece for I think we're up a queen for a knight here. I'll take it. But in the game, we have bishop takes f5. Okay, the knight replaces. That's the whole idea here. Again, this knight on b1 eventually finds its way over to h4, and this, this knight on b1 finds its way to g3 through c3, e2, g3. This knight on g1 finds its way to h4 through f3, h4, and then eventually f5. And those knights there, both of them combined, just brutal attacking pieces. Bishop e7 is played in the game here. And the engine move here is queen g3. Hikaru misses this. He actually plays an inaccuracy with the move of bishop to h6. Queen g3 is better because now knight e8 is not possible because of this pressure. Sometimes putting more pressure is better than immediate execution, right? In this case, bishop takes e7 can be played. Knight h6. Oh, you can't take back. We can capture on f7. We're up 3 points in material. And so we have bishop h6. Now here, black can play knight e8. They did do it. And now we don't have that whole, bishop takes e7, knight h6 idea. Because first off, there's no queen on g3. And second, there's no bishop on g5. But we still have a great game here. Queen g3, bishop f6. By playing knight e8, which Hikaru allowed, that lets this bishop come to f6, a key defensive piece on g7. But we have castling kingside, f4, continuing to break things open. This move of f4 is such a fun one to play in these kind of positions. Knight takes f5, we capture back. Here in this position, black's got to think about taking on f4. Black's got to think about maybe a move like rook a6, just trying to get some more defense in this game. Remember, guys, just because your rook is far away from the king doesn't mean it can't be a defending piece, especially if you rook lift here. That can be great for black, right? I mean, we're still better as white, but it's not winning for white by any means there. But with the move e4, we just take and we're crushing. Right? And that's what we see in the game here. Capturing on e4, knight d6 is played, the rook activates. I mean, talk about a fun game to play with as the white side. If black did go with a move like king to h8, we could play bishop to g5. And I mean, we're looking at e5. If you take, the pawn can take back. We have such an attacking presence. G6, f6, e5, all these kind of ideas are up in the air. And again, rook a6 there is a good idea, but black goes with e4. We take, knight c6, rook a e1, a beautiful game. Rook e8 is played. We have bishop to d5, knight takes f5, capturing back, and now rook takes e1. Why didn't the queen take back? Well, it turns out there's only 2 moves for white that are better here. One of them is rook takes e8, and then bishop takes g7. But the winning move, the crushing move here for white, bishop takes g7. Beautiful chess. look, you can take the pawn, you can take the do whatever you want, but when this bishop moves, it's going to be check. And if you capture the bishop, f6, you are going to get mated. You can slow it down with queen g5, but this move is still inevitable. Going to rook takes e1 here, right? In this case, bishop takes g7 doesn't work because f6 would be protected by the queen, but we have rook takes e1. Now when the queen captures back, bishop takes g7, same kind of idea. If the bishop takes back f6, that pawn on f6 is only attacked by the bishop that cannot move. So here we have queen takes f5, bishop takes f6 with check, and king f7, bishop c5 here. Hikaru up a pawn and a bishop, and black resigns the game. Knight c3, if you see the pawn push, which is the most popular move in online chess, play nearly half the time. You swing that knight over to g3. You play knight f3, eventually knight h4. There's an order to it. You got to build your way up to it, right? Bishop c4, not allow that bishop to get trapped, play a3 or a4, castle, king style, that kind of stuff. But when you get that setup going and you play knight h4, knight f5, it can be disastrous for your opponent. And we see this again and again in Hikaru's games against very good competition. Guys, this isn't a bullet game. I do show bullet games on this channel a lot because I actually do think they're pretty instructive, especially when you're looking at titled players like GM Hikaru Nakamura. He plays very well in bullet, and it doesn't really matter what the time control was at the end of the day, as long as the accuracy is good, or even if the accuracy isn't good, it can be good to look at what mistakes were made. But this is a blitz game. This is a blitz game here. Both sides with 3 minutes apiece, right? Both sides with 3 minutes apiece, and we just see some beautiful chess played here all the way through by Hikaru. As you can see, we got a lot of highlighted stuff here from the game, but yeah, just beautiful attacking chess. Let me know what you thought of this game down below. And again, for all of my courses, including my Knight C3 course against the Scandinavian defense, all you got to do, go down the description below, go down the pinned comment, plug in the discount code 2024 before we hit the year of 2025, and you will get 30% off. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed today's video, and just a quick reminder that in addition to the 30% off all online courses sale this month, we wanted to also give a 20% off sale on our physical merch all December. We got shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more on the merch shelf below, and we got a lot more on the website, so check them out and use the code WINTER20 for 20% off. On top of that, I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of December in 2024. I appreciate you guys a ton. It's been great getting to know you. And yeah, I'm just humbled by your support. And if you guys haven't thought about joining the Patreon community before, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And I look forward to seeing you over there on the platform. Peace.